What I saw on Saturday night from the Brooklyn Nets really stunned me. Stunned me. And I'm not a former player. I'm not an athlete. And so I would never question a team's effort or their heart or anything if I didn't feel comfortable that others around me who had maybe an insight into it that I did not have were also doing the same. They were seeing the same thing I was seeing. I saw a Brooklyn Nets team on Saturday night that tapped out. I saw Kevin Durant tap out against the Boston Celtics. And in my entire life, I would have bet you anything you wanted that was not something that we would see. That is not something the great ones do. The players that he is frequently compared to in places like this, the players I have compared him to, the company he keeps and has deserved to keep because of his greatness as a player for a generation, they don't have that night. So I'm going to give everybody a little history lesson. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. The date was April 20th, 4/20. That's not related to the story. 1986. Michael Jordan was playing a much better version of the Boston Celtics. I know we've suddenly made these Celtics out to be the 85 Bears defensively. But Michael Jordan was playing against a Celtics team that had 5 Hall of Famers on the floor. 5 Hall of Famers on the floor, and were number 1 in the NBA in defense that year. He's playing them in the old Boston Garden where the Celtics were 40-1 that year. Did Michael Jordan tap out because the defense was awfully good? Michael Jordan scored 63 points in a playoff game against that team. That was game 2 of that series. In game 1, he only scored 49. So when facing infinitely better competition than this, with infinitely worse teammates around him, he didn't have Kyrie Irving on his team. Those Bulls teams, he would have killed to have Goran Dragic on those teams. Michael Jordan scored 112 points in 2 games on the road in that series. For Kevin Durant to come home and take 1 shot in the 4th quarter was beneath him. So I don't care what anybody says. There is no defending this, and there's no coming back from it. There's no saying, well, it's a great defense. I give all the credit. Yeah, Ime Udoka, unbelievable job. Unbelievable. Are the Celtics really good? Yes, they're really good. Do they have a lot of great defenders on their team who have length and athletic? Yes, they do. You know what the great ones do? They find a way, or at least they, professionally speaking, die trying. They get carried out on their shield when it's over. Is that what happened Saturday night? Did you watch the game? Did anybody see that? Forget about Kyrie Irving. I don't know what. Look, if they're going to sign Kyrie Irving to a long-term contract, then they richly deserve what's about to happen to them. Kyrie Irving is a person who, at least in his own mind, has a lot of things going on in his life and a lot of very deep, important thoughts. God bless him if that's the way he views himself. Good, fine. There are more important things than basketball in the world. But I'm not paying someone $200 million to play basketball for me if basketball is his 4th priority. And that's where we are. And the Ben Simmons thing has become a joke. I mean, just a joke. He has turned himself into a laughingstock. Because if you're going to show up at the arena and dress like that and sit where you're sitting and call all the attention upon yourself and be unwilling to play, then you deserve Reggie Miller calling you out and Stephen A. calling you out and Jalen Rose calling you out and everybody else. They're talking about him in a way that I can't remember. The last time I heard active players talking about a player the way they're now willing out loud to talk about Ben Simmons, we have to go back to Jay Cutler a generation ago when players in the NFL were calling him out for not coming back into a game in the NFC Championship game against Green Bay. Players don't do that to each other. The league doesn't believe he's too hurt to play. The league believes he doesn't want to play. Now, I can't obviously I'm not in his back, so I can't tell you what it is or isn't. But I can tell you that the Brooklyn Nets are unlike anything I've seen in a very long time. Look, the Lakers were a disappointment this year, but it was easy to see why. Russell Westbrook is, A, completely a shell of what he was at his best, and B, a terrible fit. He is the definition of a round peg in a square hole. Whatever peg doesn't fit in a hole, that's what he was on that team. And Anthony Davis got hurt. He always gets hurt, but he got hurt. That was the explanation for them. This team has no excuse. Kevin Durant didn't want to play with the Splash Brothers. He didn't want to play with Steph. He wanted his own team. Kyrie Irving didn't want to play with LeBron James. He didn't want to play in Boston. He wanted his own team. Well, now they've got it. And look at them. Because being a great player doesn't make you a leader. And that team desperately needs it. And I don't know if they're turning to the sideline to try and find it. But Steve Nash, if someone wants to inform him that the series has not only begun but is practically over, the idea that I'm reading the papers yesterday. Nuno, jump in with me on this. I'm reading some of the write-up of this, and I'm hearing about how Steve Nash deserves to get fired. Here is the analogy I will make to the role that Steve Nash has played in this series. If you're going to blame what is happening to the Nets on Steve Nash, that would to me be equivalent to blaming the sinking of the Titanic on Kate Winslet, which is to say, she was there, but she didn't have a damn thing to do with what happened. And to me, that's how I view Steve Nash. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.